Hi, welcome back to this series of video diaries discussing our experiences in going electric. In this episode, we're going to look at the 3-year cost of running an EV to see which is cheaper, petrol or electric car. But first, we've got some exciting news about our car and also talked about how we've changed our mind about how we buy it. So, first thing, there's been a problem with our order. We ordered a GT Peugeot E2008 as it had an electric retractable sunroof, which was something we had on our old car and we really liked it. And we had a notice that they'd started building our car last week, and that was great news. But here's the issue. On Monday this week, Peugeot changed their models, and the GT no longer has the sunroof, and guess which version they built for us last week. So things have all gone pear-shaped, basically. However, there is a GT premium model which has the sunroof on it, and then there's some good news. Our dealer already has one on the way as their demonstrator, and it's in the same colour that we ordered, and as an apology, it's ours if we want it, which we do. So even though we're still locked down and we don't really need a second car just yet, we're going to take it, and to be honest, it's going to be nice to have something to look forward to. So looks like we're going to get it this month, which is great news. The second thing is discussing how we're going to buy it. In previous videos, we discussed that we were going to buy the car rather than lease it. But one of the things about recording these videos is it really makes you think things through in a lot more detail. And something I'd mentioned previously, alongside the finance illustration that I'm going to go through in a minute, has made us decide to switch to leasing a car for the first time. So the reasons, well, first of all, the speed in which the technology is improving. It's going to be good to have the choice to either buy the car in 3 years' time if we want to keep it, or just walk away and move on to a newer technology. And that was something we weren't sure about, and I think that's something we've decided that is quite important. The second thing is the additional price of the car. Now, the bulk of the extra cost in the car is the battery, and you're going to recoup that over 3 years as you save on the fuel costs. But what it means, I suppose, is that what you're really doing is it's like pre-buying your next 3 years' fuel, but in the form of a battery and buying it up front. And again, that made us think about that. And with that in mind, we've decided that what we're going to do instead is go for a 3-year lease. And what that basically means is we're going to buy the battery or pre-buy the fuel monthly rather than having to pay for the whole thing up front. So that's the news. Car's coming very, very soon. We've changed to buying it using a lease, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've never done a lease car before. And the next thing then is sort of what is the cost of that over the 3 years. Now, I'm going to not use the car that I've gone. We're going to try for something a little bit different. But what I'm going to do now is just walk you through the costs of running an EV for 3 years compared to a petrol and diesel car, and work out which is the cheaper, and see what you think.
Okay, so to compare the prices of a petrol vehicle against an electric vehicle, what you really need to do is do a proper like-for-like comparison. Now, you can't do this with all cars because some of the new electric vehicles are electric only, things like the VW ID4. You just can't get it in petrol, so you can't really compare. So what I've chosen to do here is to compare the Peugeot 208. Now, the Peugeot 208 is available in petrol, diesel and electric, so we can compare the same model side by side. The other thing I've done with this is I've not gone for the basic model. I've just gone for the next model up. So it's not quite mid-range, it's just under the mid-range version of the car, but it gives us an idea that we can compare something similar. So the next thing is need to choose which engine derivative that we need to compare. Now, with electric, there is only one model. It's 136 horsepower automatic. All electrics are automatic. There is no gearbox, so that's something that doesn't go wrong with them. So we need to find the nearest equivalent to this, again, to do a like-for-like comparison. And over here, what we can see is these 129 horsepower petrol with an automatic gearbox. And that's probably the equivalent to the electric version. Now, of course, you could save money on a petrol vehicle by going for the lower spec engine, so the lower horsepower and the manual gearbox, and that would save you some money. But I'm trying to really do a like-for-like comparison in this case. So then if we were to do a PCP quote for both cars and see how they compare. So what I've chosen to do here is an average of 12,000 miles per year with a deposit of £500. That means over 3 years, it's £385 a month. And then at the end of the 3 years, hand the car back and move on to something new. If we look at the electric equivalent, again, 12,000 miles a year, £500 deposit, we're looking at £436 a month. So it's £50 a month more expensive. Again, that's not really a great surprise. Everybody knows that electric vehicles are more expensive. But of course, that's not the whole picture. So first of all, let's just look at the numbers again. So £500 deposit, monthly PCP, that's your 36 payments, total payment on your lease over 3 years. And as you can see here, the petrol versus electric equivalent, we're talking about £2,000 difference over 3 years. But of course, that doesn't take into account the cost of fuel. So let's look at the fuel costs for the petrol car. So again, we're looking at 36,000 miles a year, 46 miles a gallon. Therefore, divide one by the other, we've got 782 gallons we need to purchase, which is 3,560 litres at £1.10 a litre. That's £3,916 of fuel over 3 years. So where does that put us with the electric? So in this particular case, 36,000 miles, 180 miles per charge. That means you need to charge it 200 times, fully charged that is. And I've estimated here £5 a charge. I actually don't really know at this point in time. It could be more expensive, or if we go for some of the things like the Agile tariff, it could even be cheaper than that. Not really sure. So I'm going in at £5 a charge at the moment. So 200 charges at £5 a time is £1,000 in fuel cost. And as you can see straight away, that's where the savings start to kick in. But that's not the end of it either, because with a petrol car, you've got car tax to pay. On this particular vehicle, that's about £450 over 3 years. Of course, if you're buying a car that's over £40,000, that was going to be nearer £1,500 car tax over 3 years. This being a cheaper car, the car tax isn't that expensive. And also what we've got with this car is we need to do 3 services, 1 a year. And I've estimated £200 a service in this particular case. So that gives us a total cost of the vehicle for 3 years of £19,385. So that's your 3-year running cost of this particular car. If we look at the electric car, first of all, there's a saving because there's no car tax. The second thing is you won't need so many services. Being an electric vehicle, there's less to go wrong. There's no gearbox, there's no oil changes and all those sorts of things. So the services are less frequent and also cheaper. And the one thing we have added here is we've added the cost of installing the charger. That cost us £150. Now that won't be applicable to any future cars that we buy because that's already done now. That's a one-off cost. But now we can look at the total cost of the 2 vehicles and we can see that the electric car is actually cheaper over 3 years. Now there's some estimation going on in my numbers there. Could be that this cost is a little bit more expensive. So, you know, there could be some variation in there. But I think you can probably see that the saving of 1,707, there's enough flexibility in the saving there that over 3 years, I think it's unlikely that the electric car will cost more than the petrol car. And considering that also means that you're now running green as well and better for the environment, that again, for me, makes it probably a bit of a no-brainer.
Okay, so there you go. That's a little bit of a financial illustration. Again, most of my costs are estimates over and above the lease costs, which are pretty rigid. But one thing you can see, it does dispel the myth that owning an EV is more expensive than a combustion engine vehicle. And of course, you've got the added benefit that you're not going to be burning fossil fuels going forward. So we're really happy with our decision now. And basically, by the time of the next video, we should have our car if all goes to plan, and we should have some real life experiences to share with you. So until next time, we'll see you then.